In 1935, Herbert J. Yates acquired 6 small Poverty Row studios: Monogram, Mascot, Liberty, Majestic, Chesterfield, and Invincible Pictures, and merged them all together to form Republic Pictures. Having formed the studio, Yates immediately set out to find Western stars to headline his pictures. Nat Levine, one of the studio's executives, decided to give a Western series to a young Gene Autry, who was virtually an unknown at the time. Autry was born and raised in Grayson County in North Texas, and worked on his father's ranch while attending school there. He later got a job as a telegraph operator in Chelsea, Oklahoma, and would often sing and play the guitar while on the job. Once, while on the midnight shift, he was heard singing by the famous comedian Will Rogers, who encouraged him to sing professionally. He soon after got a job singing for the Coastal radio station.
I'm heading for the last roundup.
In 1929, Gene signed a recording deal with Columbia Records. Later, he began working for WLS AM radio in Chicago, where he eventually got his own show. It was here that he met Smiley Burnett. Born Lester Burnett, the singer-songwriter had grown up in Ravenwood, Missouri. He began singing and playing instruments at an early age, though he never had formal training. He began his career in show business on vaudeville, before getting a job at the WDZ AM radio station in Tuscola, Illinois. It was here that he got his nickname, while reading Mark Twain's The Celebrated Jumping Frog of Calaveras County for a children's program. Burnett adopted one of the characters' names, Mr. Smiley, as his own. In 1934, Autry and Burnett were discovered by Nat Levine, who, at the time, was working for Mascot Pictures. They appeared together in the Can Maynard vehicle in Old Santa Fe.
Hey, can I sing my song now? Now? Yeah, I want to sing it right now. How about it?
All right then, go ahead, but
okay. We're going to help.
A year later, Autry starred in the serial The Phantom Empire, and Smiley provided the comic relief. It was after this that Levine tapped them both to star in a series for the newly formed Republic Pictures. The first film in the Autry series was Tumbling, Tumbleweeds, named after the Bob Nolan song of the same name. A cover of the song by Autry is, of course, featured in the film.
Living along with a tumbling tumbleweed.
I won't give a nester and a coward house room. Pack your traps and get out of here.
But didn't they tell you?
Get out!
The plot involves Autry, the son of a cattle baron who was banished from the ranch for siding with the Nesters, returning home to find that his father has died.
Why, we buried him yesterday, Jane. But of course, I thought you knew.
Worse yet, his best friend is on the run from the law and has been accused of his father's murder.
Harry Brooks.
Don't look at me like that, Gene. I didn't do it. I swear I didn't. Oh, don't let him get me. Gene, please, don't let him get me.
It's up to Gene and his friends in Dr. Parker's Medicine Show to uncover the truth and prove his friend innocent. Some Western stars took a little while to develop their on-screen personas, but not Gene Autry. He always played himself, and this film is no exception.
Janet's little sister.
The little freckle-faced kid that never could keep her stockings up?
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe it. I don't know whether to kiss you or spank you.
Don't you think I'm a little old to spank?
I suppose you are. And it's probably a little too public to...
His pleasant, nice guy demeanor and penchant for singing endeared him to audiences, despite rubbing genre aficionados the wrong way. Speaking of singing, this film strikes a remarkable balance between the musical numbers and the action, and both are integrated into the story really well. This is thanks to writer Ford Beebe, who utilizes the traditional avenging of the father's murder plot and works in the traveling show angle to make the inclusion of Autry's singing more natural. There are some stirring sequences directed by the writer's old friend and colleague, Joseph Kane. The opening, where Gene rides into a giant battle between the cattlemen and the Nesters to save his father, is particularly exciting, despite some regrettable use of speeding up the frame rate. As is the climax, where he fights the Heavy, played by Edward Hearn, aboard a runaway wagon.
I'm a Roman cowboy, riding all day long. Tumbleweeds around me, sing their lonely song.
The musical interludes are also well done, and all 6 of the featured songs are memorable. The 2 main ones are the aforementioned Tumbling Tumbleweeds and Riding Down the Canyon, both of which would eventually become country western standards.
Riding down the canyon to watch the sun go down, a picture that's no...
Riding Down the Canyon was written by Gene and Smiley Burnett. Smiley wrote or co-wrote all of the songs for the picture except for the aforementioned Bob Nolan title song.
It's corn-fed and rusty, it's antique and dusty, it's the same old tune that's the blazing 89. Pretty place to see and classy place to see, it's the same...
Burnett was incredibly talented, not only as a comic but also as a singer and songwriter. His regular appearances in Gene's films would lend them the same sense of consistency that Gabby Hayes brought to the early Hopalong Cassidy pictures. Incidentally, Hayes also appears in this film as Dr. Parker, the grandiloquent leader of Autry's traveling show.
Plague-ridden people, and the most musical minstrels that ever mangled a melody.
If you didn't have the latter, you wouldn't sell much to the farmer.
It's a fairly unique role for the actor, who usually played grizzled, cantankerous old codgers. Autry's series for Republic would make him a big celebrity, and he quickly rose to become the most popular of all Western stars. The actor would keep the studio afloat nearly single-handed. Ken Maynard may have been the first singing cowboy, but Autry was the first really successful one. Other studios would try to mimic this success by promoting their own singing cowboy actors. Warner Brothers had Dick Foran, Monogram promoted Jack Randall, and Universal cultivated Bob Baker, formerly Leland Weed, while Tex Ritter and Fred Scott both worked for independent productions. Most of these actors, with the exception of Ritter, would not last more than a few years in the saddle, before audiences tired of them.
Close your sleepy eyes, my little buckaroo.
Sometimes this was due to the actor himself, but it was mostly the fault of the studios, who did not give their films enough of a budget after the first few installments. In the end, the only actor to give Autry competition would come from Republic, and it would take Gene's departure to catapult him to fame. Always a business-savvy fellow, Gene started to get more ambitious, and began hinting to the Republic execs that he was worth more money, but Herbert Yates wouldn't allow the actor to dictate terms. So, Autry left Republic in 1937, leaving the studio to seek a suitable replacement. They settled on a young singer named Len Sly, who we'll deal with later on. In any case, it was not long before Autry returned to Republic, without the higher salary he had hoped for. Autry finally got his way in 1939 when his film, South of the Border, became a massive hit. Released around Christmas, and, like his earlier film, Mexicali Rose, featuring a current hit song in the opening title, the film was an unprecedented hit for Republic.
As I wander, my thoughts ever stray south of the border, down Mexico way.
Autry spiraled to new heights of fame, and he was finally given the higher salary he'd long sought.
Love, and when you're beneath.
His films, which had become more and more dominated by musical numbers, were, after this, nearly devoid of action. Nonetheless, he continued to be the most popular Western star until he left Hollywood to join the Air Force during World War II, and his pictures were given nearly A-list budgets by Republic during this period.
Steaming down the Mississippi, Steamboat Bill, a mighty man was he. Steamboat Bill, steaming down the Mississippi, going to beat the record of the Robert E. Lee.
Autry's horse, Champion, who first appeared alongside him in Melody Trail, his second film for Republic, was, like Tom Mix's Tony, nearly as popular as the actor himself.
You're a pretty good horse. Eh?
Champion's just about the best there is.
Oh, he's your horse. No?
Yes.
Champion was a sorrel who had a blaze on his face and white stockings on all of his legs except the right front one. He would die while Gene was in the service.